you didn't act out of love in harming those children. And actions speak far more louder than words. I sense you deeply regret what has happened. I just wished I could have been next to you before you made that choice and to whisper in your ear, do not make this choice. This is a forever mistake. Pleaded guilty to the second-degree felonies of indecency with a child younger than 17 years of age. A pre-sentence report has been prepared in these matters. Have the parties had an opportunity to review it, and are there any corrections or changes to it? State.
Yes, Your Honor, we've reviewed it. I have no objections or requested changes, Judge.
The defense.
Judge, I don't have any objections to corrections, but I do look at the courts.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I want to address an issue that is at the top of page 2.
Okay.
That I've addressed a little bit in the sentencing memo, but
I'm going to let y'all both have an opportunity to make your presentations of what you feel is in the best interest of justice for the state and in the best interest of the client from the defense. And the state may open and close on this. What says the state? By the way, for the record, the agreement is in each of these cases, whatever the sentence shall be, shall not exceed a cap of 10 years imprisonment. Correct, everybody?
yes, Judge.
Yes,
Okay, so that means no less than 2, nor more than 10 years confinement in prison. And the other option, regular probation is not an option. Is that correct?
Correct.
And deferred or unadjudicated probation would be the only other option,
That's
which can be up to
yes, sir.
20 years in length. These sentences are to run concurrently by agreement. Is that right?
We agree, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, state.
Yeah, I would like to open, Judge, and a couple of housekeeping matters first. I had defense counsel and his client go ahead and complete the sex offender registration. We've tendered that to your clerk, Judge, him acknowledging his requirements that no matter what your decision is, he has to register as a sex offender. I want to
And failing to do that in accordance with the requirements of law can result in additional criminal charges. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Go ahead.
Judge, I can't not start with the fact that this has been a horrific journey for
Everybody?
my focus right now is on the 2 girls. I do acknowledge that the impact of Mr. Tyler's conduct is far-reaching. You can tell that by the number of people that are here and the number of letters that you receive, but my focus is on the girls. This indictment started in August of 2021, but it detailed conduct whenever they were so young they can hardly remember details.
It started when? You said 21?
The indictment was returned on August 25th, 2021.
Yeah.
And it took till December 17th, 2025 for any acknowledgement about the wrongdoing in this matter. I mean, all kinds of things can be said, but this family is so frustrated with how long it took to get to a point where this man would stand before somebody and accept responsibility for his actions. These girls were 6 and 11 whenever they step forward and detail the amount of conduct that occurred here. And I appreciate advocacy from the defense, but the manner in which they detail the procedural history on this, I find offensive. They claim it's a one-time incident and really just try to minimize what's happened here. There's several incorrect statements within the motion suggesting to the court that you can only sentence him to 8 years when our cap is 10 years. They do state in their motion that in order for the court to grant probation in this matter, that there has to be a finding that it's in the best interest of the children. And not one single argument is suggested as how it could possibly be in their best interest. Then they attach countless numbers of letters from family, friends and family of Mr. Tyler that sans one letter from an attorney says he's not familiar with the specific facts surrounding the incident. Nobody acknowledges these children and what they went through. It's all about Mr. Tyler. The detail within the PSI talks about the frequency, and specifically one child talks about how this happened over 100 times. And I wait to hear how we have any true acceptance of responsibility when we look at page 2, where, quote, the defendant further stated, "No, I do not take responsibility for this offense." Basically minimizing, again, talking about how he just tickled them. I want to close this portion of my argument with highlighting the recommendations from the probation officer on page 5. Records indicate the defendant has no criminal history, that he is an elderly Vietnam War veteran. However, the defendant is denied full responsibility for this offense and minimizes his conduct. The defendant presents a significant risk to minor children due to multiple familial victims over an extended period, intrafamilial access and position of trust, repeated sexual contact, including groping, forced kissing with tongue insertion, lap sitting, genital rubbing, grooming behaviors such as escalating tickling, sexually inappropriate comments, and taking inappropriate photographs, as well as minimization and denial of sexual intent. Man, I wish I could have made that argument myself. The bottom line is the way that this party, that our interview in this particular regard, summed up what we're dealing with here, screams that justice requires a 10-year sentence on that. It's what the victims want on this matter. Based upon my communications with them, we worked a deal to where one of the charges would be dismissed. And we knew that they would come in here and make a presentation for probation. I mean, what other option do they really have? But it's not in their best interest. And in our opinion, it does not do justice to what's happened here.
Mr. Marks, on behalf of the defendant, go ahead.
Yes, Judge. So to clarify, I understand Mr. Ham's disagreement with the wording as I'm looking at it now, my procedural history. What I want to suggest to the court is that the sexual assault allegation was what I was referencing as at least according to the sexual assault that's going to be dismissed, was a one-time incident. And that's what I was referencing in my language there. I wasn't saying this stuff only happened one time. So I was referencing the allegation of the sexual assault. I apologize if that wasn't clear. Judge, I think Mr. Tyler has really struggled to come to grips with what he has done and what the impact that it's had on his family, it essentially has torn his family in half. And he recognizes that. One of the things I would point out that was not included in the pre-sentence report, Judge, was in his pre-sentence interview paperwork. It's flagged right there at the top.
Do you have a copy of this?
No, sir.
I can give him a copy, Judge.
Yeah.
It's just one word, Judge. It's asked, how does he feel about the crimes he's committed? And he says remorseful. And he wrote that unprompted. He wrote that without talking to the probation officer or anything else. But my concern is, and I'm not being critical of probation, they have a very difficult job in doing these interviews and coming up with these assessments. But it's frustrating to me that that is the word that he used, and yet that word was not included at all in the pre-sentence report. And instead, again, a comment that he made about the tickling, which I think is certainly a minimization. But I think that's a psychological thing that people do, unfortunately. Everybody struggles to fully accept what they've done when it's been hurtful to other people, particularly family members. But Judge, other than these activities, which Mr. Tyler takes very seriously and is accepting responsibility for through his guilty plea and through comments like this about being remorseful, other than this conduct, Judge, he has been a model citizen. He's a veteran. He's a retired person that worked a whole long career. He has lived a good and decent life, but for this this conduct here, and I know how serious it is. I'm not minimizing myself. I'm not minimizing how serious it is, and I can understand the difficulty and the anguish and the frustration that the family has felt. We are asking the court to consider probation, though, based on the totality of Mr. Tyler's circumstances, his health circumstances, his age, his lack of criminal history. These are all reasons that the court can grant him the opportunity for supervision and supervise him and set up whatever requirements the court wants to in terms of who he can be around and where he can go and what he can do and all those kind of things. And so we're asking the court to give consideration to the letters of support that he has from the community, from his family, and asking the court to consider granting him probation.
Okay.
Judge, I purposely went first because I was waiting to hear an argument that suggested in some form or fashion that it's in those girls' best interest that we do that. It's absolutely not. There's still nothing that's been said about that. I too read every one of those letters that were attached about this man, and I walk away with a different opinion. He has groomed all those people, just like he went through the grooming process to do this with these children. It is his conduct that we are here talking about. We don't excuse people's behavior because one day they were great and the next day they murder somebody. I use that analogy because it is only through his conduct that there's a division in this family. I was in tears talking to his son this morning about what he has to do with the fact that he can't even talk to his dad anymore. This grandfather has forever changed those children. Forever. And their frustration at the fact that it took so many trial dockets, so many times that this thing got reset for him to come along and finally accept some responsibility. It's like I said, it's a horrible journey that really none of these folks should have ever experienced. But here we are. Here we are where Mr. Tyler is asking for probation. One thing of note, Judge, is throughout all the numerous trial dockets that we've had, there was one witness that stuck with me as to why it is that he was so willing to come and testify. And that was Jeremy Bradshaw. That was the pastor over where Mr. Tyler went to church. And it was at that church that everything came out and it was told. And there was a confrontation between Mr. Bradshaw and Mr. Tyler that led to his admissions. And even then, it was only partial because of the shame that went on, because so many people believe all those things that are detailed in the letter. But this man, who now lives in Nebraska and has been living from such a great distance, has been willing to come down and testify at every setting. And I repeat that because I lost count at the number of times I had to marshal or other lawyers marshaled up witnesses to come to court and get this case tried. But that stands out. It makes sense that others that are so personally involved would do it. But it really underscores the true character of not only the witness, but the reality that the shamefaced situation that was there when a church member comes forward to talk about in detail what he was doing with his grandchildren. Two strong young ladies have stood forth, and they are asking Your Honor to assess a punishment of 10 years, and I join in their request.
All right. Mr. Tyler, anything you want to add at this time?
I take responsibility for my actions, Your Honor.
What did you do that you're responsible for?
I love my kids, my grandkids.
That's not a crime, sir. What did you do that caused you to be here looking at prison time and being indicted? Because here's the problem. I'm looking at this pre-sentence report here, and during the pre-sentence investigation, you stated, "I do not take responsibility for the offense. I tickled the male grandchildren, and the female grandchildren wanted to be tickled too. It was just grandchildren." That's what you said you're responsible for. How does that work with you pleading guilty to me under oath, stating you committed these offenses and you swore to God that was true? This is a completely different story. Which is the truth? Do you accept responsibility or
Yes,
not?
I do. I respect responsibility for my actions.
Which were what?
What the court indicated, Your Honor.
Abusing the children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, anything else you would like to add, sir? Can you explain why?
No, Your Honor.
No? Oh. The court has had its experience in law. I've been a lawyer for 40 years, over 40 years, and I've handled and been involved in the middle of the worst capital murder case maybe in the United States' history with James Byrd. And that haunts me to this day, dealing with what happened there. But no less painful to deal with is the harm to children. I have 2 children. I have 3 grandchildren. And I can't imagine harming them in any way. I can't even imagine that. I think that's maybe the worst thing that could be imaginable. But what happens here in this situation that I'm reading, sir, And I don't see any history of wrongdoing here until this comes about. And there's nothing that this court is shown here in this pre-sentence report that has some kind of legal reason that is defensible. This shows nothing but you had a choice to make, and you made a conscious choice to abuse the grandchildren. And dealing with murders and the harm to children, this court, I don't know how you can really weigh those two because it's apples and oranges. But I can tell you that the greatest blessing that our Creator gave us with children is the fact that we can enjoy their innocence. And when that is taken away, as I read this court finds it hard to believe a more harmful event can occur. What is the price for the loss of innocence of a child? You can't place a figure on it because it's forever. And you just hope that they can rebound somehow and live their life without those haunting memories of their grandfather abusing them, which lasts forever. What kind of punishment is fair for a child that is harmed forever? It seems like it should be severe. And I just, family, special. And I'm looking over there and I see some to the left and some to the right, and then there's a vacant middle. There's a family separated. So this is a multi-dimensional harm that I hope somehow the family, because families, we didn't get to choose them. Our Creator gave them. A Creator made the master plan of how our family would be put together. Not, we don't get to choose. It's our Creator. I know there's a good purpose for all that. But this hopefully will be somehow resolved for them. And for you, what's difficult is for an 81-year-old person to be sentenced for such a serious crime. That works against all of us feeling that people who are elderly, we've got to be very careful of punishment. Yeah. But there's nothing in this report that shows that you had a disability or infirmity or mental illness that caused that prevented you from making decisions that you elected to make. And those choices have consequences, no matter what our age. And
Can I say something?
sure, this is an important time.
Regardless of what the outcome of this is, I still love my family, my grandchildren. That will never change.
But those are words.
Yes, they're
But
my feelings.
you didn't act out of love in harming those children. And actions speak far more louder than words. I sense you deeply regret what has happened. I just wished I could have been next to you before you made that choice and to whisper in your ear, do not make this choice. This is a forever mistake
Yes,
that will
Your Honor.
harm the people you claim you love
Yes, Your Honor.
forever. No, this is one of those where people say, heads I lose, tails they win. It's a no-win situation for anyone.
Yes, Your Honor.
But that's why the law came into being, so that we can resolve problems and mistakes. This is obviously a terrible, tragic mistake that all of us think of as a nightmare. In each of these cases, sir, you have nothing further. Each of these cases, these second-degree felonies of indecency with a child by sexual contact, you have pleaded guilty voluntarily. You are mentally competent to do so. You understand and appreciate the consequences of pleading guilty. There's sufficient evidence supporting your guilty plea from State's Exhibit 1 admitted in each of these cases to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that it's my clear understanding from the state's presentation, correct me if I'm wrong, that the victims and their families have requested that the defendant be punished.
Yes, sir.
In this case,
It is their specific request for the 10-year sentence, Judge.
right, victims have a voice with this court. They always have. Sometimes their voice is made for reasons of emotion, and sometimes it's made because of not only it's fair, but it has broken the hearts. And once again, because the court has not seen anything in this report that shows that Mr. Tyler was incompetent to act responsibly, I find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in each of these cases. I am following these agreements. And you are hereby sentenced to confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve a term of 10 years on each of these cases, which shall run concurrently. It's a terrible set of circumstances. And again, of course, the court is basing its decision on what do we value the innocence of children on. And in the United States of America, it's of highest interest. I just wish I had the power to change history, but we move forward. And this decision is what the court deems as justice under these circumstances. Anything else to add?
Not as to this, Judge, but the victims would like to make an allocution when we're done with the sentencing.
Anything from this defense?
No, Judge.
All right. Well, go ahead.
You want him seated? How do you want to handle it, Judge?
You can be seated right there. Come forward, please. And these are.
After hearing both sides, the judge made his decision clear. Age, a clean criminal record, and claims of remorse could not outweigh the harm described in this case. The court sentenced him to 10 years in prison on each count, to run concurrently. For the victims and their families, the consequences of what happened will extend far beyond this courtroom.